In these perilous times, see from current events how biblical prophecy is coming to pass in front of our eyes. You're watching In the Last Days, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. With Martin and Natalie Blackham, thank you to our friends and partners who make this program possible. Now, here's Martin and Natalie.
Hi, welcome to the In the Last Days television program with myself, Martin Blackham. Great to have you with us. Natalie's behind the scenes today, so she says hello to you. And we welcome you wherever you're watching today across the UK, into Europe and on the internet. And we even had someone watching Alaska, so wherever you're watching across the world, great to have you with us. This is the program that looks at Israel, the end times, news, and we have interviews. And today we have a very special guest in the studio. You're not going to want to miss any of this. Danny, welcome. Great to have you with us. Thank you for coming across today.
Great to be here.
Danny Ayalon was recently the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel, a former ambassador to the United States. You've been a foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to Ehud Barak, as well as Chief Foreign Policy Advisor to Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. You've been a member of the Israeli delegation to Sharm El-Sheikh, I think that's the correct pronunciation, 1997, the White Plantation, and the Camp David 2000 summit. So you've really got a lot of experience.
Yes, I was really honored, and I'm very proud to have been able to serve my country, my people, my nation, and to be there in very important junctures.
So I'm going to start straight away with what's happening currently, and as we come in the studio, we have some of the Jerusalem Post. It says, Netanyahu, Israel can't rely on international troops for security, talking about what's happening in the Golan Heights. So maybe, Danny, we can start there with the Golan Heights, and maybe you can give us a bit of a background on what's happening there.
Absolutely, Martin. Let me start maybe with an overview, not just specifically about Israel. I mean, you see today that people, a country, people that cannot defend themselves by themselves are actually being left to the mercy of thugs, of extremists, of terrorists. We don't have to go far. Remember the 1.5 million murdered in Rwanda, in Darfur, in the Balkans. It seems like the international community can hardly act to save and to protect. And if they do, it's always almost too late. Like today in Syria, whether the international community at the last days will gather itself to protect people or not, it will be too late for the 100,000 that were already killed. Now we, as the Jewish people, more than anyone else, understand it, that when we didn't have our land and our country, we were under the mercy of vagaries of times. This is what caused pogroms, because we couldn't protect ourselves. The Holocaust, of course, which was the culmination of evil. And this is why, since the establishment, or re-establishment, which is smart to say, it's the re-establishment of the State of Israel in our historic biblical homeland, always our leaders maintained the one principle of always being able to defend ourselves by ourselves. And also we had the proof in 1956, after the Sinai campaign. The UN sent, we had to withdraw from the Sinai. This was the second time we withdrew from the Sinai. The first time was in 48, the Independence War. Second time was in 56. But in 56, we were a little bit wiser than in 48. So we said, okay, we are leaving the Sinai Peninsula, but we need protection, international peacekeeping forces. This was UNEP. UNEP was United Nations Force that was there to keep the peace or the armistice. Came 1967. Gamal Nasser, then the leader of Egypt, waged war with Israel. He closed the canal, the Suez Canal, and was really threatening to erase Israel. What is the first thing that this UNEP, the peacekeeping troops, do? They up and leave.
Which is what is happening in the Golan at the moment.
So this is exactly, so what's happening here in the Golan Heights today is nothing new. So we are used to it back in 67, and of course we are not very happy about it, but that goes to show why we could never, and not just us, any people should not put their trust on others. And this in a way reinforces our policies. It validates our policies of always being able to defend ourselves by ourselves.
And the situation at the moment is that you're having to monitor the border. Do you know what's happening the other side? Because there's been different stories in the press about the rebels taking. I mean, there was which is, as far as I know, is accurate. The story of the checkpoint, which was taken by the rebels and has now been retaken by the Syrian army. Do you know what's going on the other side?
Depending on the day of the week and on the hour of the day, it's very much touch and go. There is a brutal war going on between the insurgents or the rebels or the anti-Assad regime and the Assad forces, which are being augmented and held by Iran and the Hezbollah. And sometimes these fights come very close to our border on the Golan Heights, and of course we have to monitor it very, very seriously and very closely. But we keep hands-off policy. We should not interfere. We cannot interfere. If we do, it's only on the basis of humanitarian assistance, and we have built some field hospitals. So anyone who needs humanitarian care or doctors or nurses, we tend to the wounded and then return them to Syria.
Now, one of the interesting things which people are talking about at the moment, and I was reading in the press, was that how is the relationship now of Israel with Egypt and Jordan, because it's such a fluid situation. I mean, for example, in Egypt we had the situation of the Israeli embassy problem,
Yes.
and so maybe you can give us an update about Egypt and Jordan.
Well, I would say basically the relationship is very solid and it's good, and it's based on mutual interests, both for Jordan and for Egypt. And also, if I can extend the picture, today there is a real convergence of Israel, of interests between Israel and moderate Sunni countries, being Saudi Arabia, all the Gulf countries, Qatar, the Emirates, Bahrain, and others, and in that case also Jordan and Syria, against Iran, against Shiite militarism, which expresses itself in Iraq, in Lebanon, Hezbollah, in Syria, and of course the hub is in Iran. So based on these very, very serious common interests, the relations, especially defense relations with Egypt and also with Jordan, are quite solid.
Now, the thing that has been talked about a lot, and Benjamin Netanyahu has been speaking about this, is the Iran situation, and he had the picture in the United Nations of the ticking bomb. And we keep reading in the press that things are getting more and more serious. What can Israel do, or the United States, in this situation? I mean, there's been, I believe, the sanctions, but what else can they do?
I think a lot more can be done. And by the way, the Iranian threat is not just a threat to Israel. First and foremost, it's a threat to the Gulf countries, to the Sunni world, to its neighbors, to Turkey, and also to the entire international community, because unlike North Korea, which may or may not have 1 or 2 bombs in their cellar, and they do it only to extort some economic benefits, we're talking about a country which is based on very, very extreme ideology, the Ayatollah's ideology of hegemony, not only in the Middle East, but much, much beyond. And the infrastructure that they have built, if left to their own design, they will be able to build 25, 30 nuclear bombs a year with delivery systems that can reach all over the globe. So it's a very, very serious threat. Coupled with that is their ideology, their support of terrorism. So you see that it's not just a matter of Israel. No one can really tolerate or even exist if they will become nuclear. So what can we do? Sanctions have been working somewhat, political isolation also, but we can do much more, all the way to a full trade embargo. Um, we know already that there is a lot of unrest in Iran. Um, Fairly soon, matter of days, we will have elections. It could be that by the time we will have this program, we'll know the results. But there is a lot of discomfort, disconcern, and also a lot of resistance in Iran itself. We have to remember, Iran, 45% of Iranians are not Farsis. So there are many vulnerabilities to this regime. And I believe that we have not really used all the tools we have collectively, internationally, all the tools we have in our diplomatic and economic toolbox. We can do much more and make the dilemma theirs. So far, the Ayatollahs put the dilemma on ours. They flagrantly defy the international order, the international law, Security Council resolutions. There's four Security Council resolutions that call them to stop, and they defied. So we can put more and more pressure, so then the dilemma becomes theirs. If they will be in a position that they will pay a heavy price, the Ayatollahs themselves, it's not against the people, it's against the regime of the Ayatollahs, then there is a chance that they will stop. And we do know that they respond to power and to threats. The only time, Martin, that they have suspended the enrichment program was in 2003, when they perceived a threat from the United States, which was flanking them on both sides, when the US was in Iraq on the one side of Iran and in Afghanistan on the other side of Iran, and they thought they could become next. So they suspended it. Now, when the US is leaving, is out of Iraq, soon, 14, next year, to be out of Afghanistan, they feel more confident. And that's why we should make clear to them that they cannot become nuclear. And it's not God-given that they will become nuclear. I believe that with a concerted effort of the international community, with the unity of purpose, with the unity of agenda and policies, they can be stopped without resorting to non-violent means.
And one of the difficulties we find with Iran is that it's not just their threat of nuclear action, but also they're acting as an agent with the terrorist groups in the Gaza Strip, in Lebanon, and the smuggling of weapons. I was just reading in the newspaper today that one of the IDF spokesmen was saying he wasn't so much concerned what's happening above the ground, but what's happening under the ground with the tunnels that weapons are being smuggled into Gaza. And of course, we recently suffered the missile attack. Even here in the studio, we had the alarm going off in Haradar. So is that continuing, do you know? Or?
Well, they continue to supply arms to terrorist groups, first and foremost the Hezbollah in Lebanon, to the Syrians, and to other terror groups. With Hamas now there is a rift on the basis of the Sunni Shia. Hamas is Sunni, but until the civil war in Syria, Hamas was very much assisted by Iran, and most of their weapons of really random killing, all those Katyusha rockets and the missiles and the Qassams, and the money to manufacture and buy them came from Iran.
I remember that one of the days when the missiles were fired, I went outside and there was nobody walking around, and I think the instructions were that you had to remain at home, yes, and ready to go into the shelter if the alarm went off. Now, I want to speak, Danny, about what you're doing at the moment, because I was reading a very interesting article from, I think it was from the United States. You did just before you finished your stint with the Foreign Ministry as Deputy Foreign Minister. Danny was in the United States. I believe that's right. And there was I don't know if I can put my hands on it at this exact second, but there was an article written, and they were saying they were saying it was almost like a goodbye for now, but they said for now. So I think they're expecting you to return in the future.
Yes, well, you know, politics everywhere is unpredictable, especially in Israel. Right now, I am very happy to be outside of politics. I think it's good. I think it's good for any politician to be out, at least for a while. I think it broadens your experience and your scope, and if you do come back, you comes with much richer experiences, insights, and a better ability to lead. So, of course, I do not rule out going back to politics if the opportunity presents itself, and I think I can be useful for the country. And if this happens, Martin, you will be among the first to know.
Thank you. The article was very interesting because they said one of the successes and one of the important things that you've established was the Hasbara aspect for Israel, for English speaking, particularly in the United States. With social media, you've been working with Facebook and expanding the how important has that been for you, the social networking and Israel presenting itself correctly to the media? Because this is a war. This is also, and you need to know at home, this is one of the wars of Israel. It isn't just the terrorists, but you've also got the media.
Mm-hmm. You see, I've realized, you know, the importance of media cannot be overstated, and especially with the social media. And here, it took us a time to realize there is a war waged against us by Palestinians and their collaborators, and it hasn't started now. It's been for years now, and this is a continuation of their attempts to destroy us. If 65 or 100 years ago they tried military means and they failed, you know, if we fast forward today, thank God we can again defend ourselves by ourselves, and this is very important. Then they resorted in the 50s of last century, in 60s and even 70s, to economic fights with boycotts against us, and that didn't work. Fasting forward, we are today a very established and strong economy, OECD country and the startup nation, technology and all that. They tried terrorism and they failed. This is why we have the fence that stopped the suicide bombers from coming. And now they put all the emphasis on what I called a political warfare. And this is a very dangerous one, because what they try to do is delegitimize Israel. And they do it through lies in the media, through lies in campuses and academics that they just buy out. There are many Arab countries and Arab sheikhs and Muslims that donate to many, many campuses in the West. And then they say who they want as teachers, and they teach just a false history. The same goes in the media. The same goes in the UN. You know, they use the Arab automatic majority against us. So all of it together, it's an attack. And there is a network of collaborators, mostly Palestinians, but also some, I would say, very naive NGOs across the world who have been actually fooled by the Palestinians to use them, like all kinds of human rights watchdogs, which get only the Palestinian side, you know, the terrorism that is waged on us, and not looking at Israel as a true democratic, pluralistic country. So I realized that this war is just as dangerous for Israel as is the military or economic, which we have won. So we must win also this Hasbara, this PR war. And to do it, we cannot stay aloof. We should be active. And unfortunately, if I can put my finger, where did Hasbara of Israel started falling? Because we were very popular among the world after our big victories in 48, in 56, in 67. I would say the collapse started in 1993, just when we started our peace steps with the Palestinians. And at that point, we stopped our Hasbara because we thought here we are negotiating with worthwhile peace-seeking partners. So we stopped explaining, we stopped describing who we are and what do we do. But the Palestinians didn't stop for even 1 second. Just as we were negotiating peace, they continued to slam us. They continued the incitement, what they do in their schools and throughout the media. We left the Hasbara stage, the PR stage, but it didn't stay vacant. Palestinians filled it all up. And there was a critical mass after 20 or years, as we are now, from the Oslo from 1993. And there is a whole generation of people that do not know the truth. So I decided we have to set the record straight. And we have to work in the media, especially in the social media. And I've started very short video clips, 3 to 4 minutes, showing the history of the land, the history of the people, the history of the wars that were waged on us, what Israel has been doing in peace, withdrawing from land, whether it was the Sinai, whether it was the Gaza, but showing that it's not a territorial conflict. Had it been territorial conflict, they would have taken the far-reaching offers that were offered to them repeatedly by different Israeli leaders, all the way until 2008, Olmert. They would have come to the negotiation table now without preconditions. This has to be shown. And these video clips that I started, it's called The Truth About Israel.
And if you're watching today, how can the viewers...
very easily. It's on the YouTube. If they put The Truth About or Danny Ayalon, The Truth About, they will see it.
We'll make sure that's put on the screen so that you can click on that and go to that link.
And based on the success of these video clips, which were watched by millions, also in the Arab world, since I left the government, established this NGO, non-for-profit, which is called The Truth About Israel, to just continue with these video clips, take these complex issues and just bring them, simplify it for viewers. And we'll continue to send it in the YouTube, in the social media, and the more people educate themselves, I believe they will realize the truth. There is only one truth. And we believe that the more people will get into the details, they will see who is Israel, what it has done, sacrificed for peace. And unfortunately, on the other side, the Palestinians and other Arabs or extreme Muslims do not want any peace. They just want the entire land. They don't want us here. They want a pan-Islamic Middle East. There is no tolerance for anyone who is different, which is very, very wrong. And this is why the conflict, Martin, between us and the Palestinians is not a conflict about territories. We gave them territories. We are willing to give them more territories. It's not about natural resources. There aren't any in these areas. So it's not just a national conflict. It's a deep-rooted ideological conflict whereby they don't want us here. They don't want any remnants of Judeo-Christian heritage in our homeland, in where we started. And if we look at the Christian world today, in the Middle East, the Christians are being persecuted and Jews are being persecuted, whether it's the Copts, the Christians of Egypt, whether it's the Christians in Iran, and even in the Palestinian Authority. Bethlehem, which was always had a Christian majority, certainly when Israel was there. 1995, we gave back. We didn't give back. We gave Bethlehem to Arafat. And I can tell you here from a personal experience that at that time, the Christian mayor of Bethlehem in 1995, came to Yitzhak Rabin, the one who negotiated giving this land to Arafat, beseeched him not to give up Bethlehem. He said, you give up everything else but not Bethlehem. Rabin said, my hands are tied. I signed an agreement. We gave Bethlehem. That was in 1995. At that time, Bethlehem had 70% Christians. Today, when the Palestinians are there, it's only 9%. And so what I'm trying to say here, that the Hasbara, that PR is very important, so people will understand the truth and the facts on the ground. And until and unless there is a change of attitude by the Arabs, by the Palestinians, there won't be peace.
Yes, I mean, Natty and I went with the journalists to Bethlehem and covered the Christmas celebration there, and it was interesting what they were talking about, and the press were talking about the disappearance of the Christian community from Bethlehem, which is not well reported.
It's not well reported, unfortunately. It's not well reported, but you have to start. And this is what I realized with this Hasbara and PR and political warfare. You have to be there.
One of the things I've noticed, and I think I picked it up somewhere, is that in reading all the information and doing research, was that some of the complaints have been that Israel is, when it comes to PR, apologizes a lot.
Absolutely, and this is also something that I realized we have to change the paradigm. Since '93, we became apologetic, we became passive or reactive at best, and we stopped talking about the truth, which is Jewish rights to our land, justice for the Jews as well, the morality, the essence of the entire conflict. And instead of that, we became apologetic. Oh, well, we talk about security and all that. This does not work. And in my time in the ministry, and I hope this will continue, the paradigm now is changed, where we are not apologetic, not reactive, but we initiate, we are proactive, and we are talking the truth, including rights for the Jews and justice for the Jews, as well as to Palestinians.
Well, it's been great to have you on the program today. Thank you so much for coming across.
Enjoyed it very much.
And hopefully we shall have you next week on the program. If you'd like to email us, don't forget you can email us at info@inthelastdays.com. Don't forget to visit the website, www.inthelastdays.com. And remember, we're living in the last days.
You've been watching In the Last Days, a TV program with Martin and Natalie Blackham, the program that looks at Israel and the end times with teaching from a Hebraic perspective. If you would like to financially support the program or find out about conferences, meetings or ministry products, then please contact us with the details on your screen. Visit our easy-to-use website at www.inthelastdays.com and register for our free e-newsletter. Get the latest news from Israel, product information, online video teaching, or watch today's TV program at a time that's convenient to you. Thank you again, friends and partners, for making this program possible.
See you same time, same station for the next program from In the Last Days.